few people suspected that active experiments with behavior control methods went on long after the program was supposedly shut down. In fact, as the CIA claimed it was winding things down in the 1960s, a new division quietly picked up the work with better funding, better technology, and fewer people asking questions. This group was not just experimenting on hippies in San Francisco anymore. According to John Marks in The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, that division was the Office of Research and Development, or ORD, led by Stephen Aldrich. Their focus was not just LSD and hypnosis, it was total behavioral control. They implanted electrodes in animal brains to control movement remotely. They explored psychosurgery, memory erasure, and even discussed using reptiles to deliver chemical or biological weapons in covert assassinations. Tests were conducted on inmates at Holmesburg State Prison in Philadelphia, a full decade after MKUltra had officially, supposedly, been shut down. To support this work, members of the ORD created the Scientific Engineering Institute, a CIA proprietary organization near Boston, which included a rural lab on a several hundred-acre farm. One researcher who was questioned about their work remained tight-lipped, but did concede that they had looked at zapping parts of the brains of crows to control their behavior. And if that was what they admitted to, one wonders what they preferred not to disclose. If you want a full deep dive into this sordid chapter of the CIA, including Project MK and all of the insanity that went into it, head over to the American Alchemy Substack. We are linking that in the description. But what ties all of this together? The human experiments, the biological experiments, the scenes that sound like something out of Resident Evil, is the fact that the CIA's Scientific Engineering Institute was quietly transitioned into the private sector in the late 1970s. It was rebranded as Searle Metadata, a subsidiary of GD Searle, the pharmaceutical company chaired by none other than Donald Rumsfeld. And in 1985, Rumsfeld helped orchestrate the sale of Searle to our old friends at Monsanto. The point is that the line between covert government operations, human experimentation, and big pharma is very, very blurry. The same questions need to be asked about the simple logistics of all of this. Where are these experiments being done? If some corporation or secret government agency were hiding advanced technology, how would they do it? It's likely that one of the world's largest and most secretive engineering firms would handle it. Building immense underground nuclear weapons complexes or military bases, Bechtel would surely be read into the needs for a secure facility for medical experiments, or perhaps even keeping alien bodies. I was also told that Monsanto may have historically been involved, most likely dealing with biological specimens. Before we jump into today's episode of American Alchemy, I want to thank today's sponsor, Hexclad Cookware, aka the pans I didn't know I needed until I ditched the warped, flaked mess I've been cooking with since college. But here's what sold me. Hexclad pans are like if stainless steel and non-stick had a love child. And then Gordon Ramsay adopted it. No joke, he actually uses them at home and in his restaurants. And as we all know, that guy doesn't suffer fools gladly. So he probably has equally high standards for his cookware. First meal I made, a seared steak and some scrambled eggs. No sticking, no smoke alarm, no soaking it overnight like it's some artifact from an archaeological dig. They're oven safe up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, they're toxic free, and they even come somehow with a lifetime warranty, which to me sounds like cookware immortality. And the knives, Japanese Damascus steel, 67 layers. It's this kind of precision that makes you wonder if these were reverse engineered from material found at a UFO crash site. So if you've got some sad pan haunting your kitchen, replace it. For a limited time, get 10% off my exclusive link, hexclad.com/Jesse. Again, that's hexclad.com/Jesse. Please use that link. It shows a ton of support for the channel and you get a discount. Now back to the episode. You talk about corruption in the healthcare system. Lou Elizondo, who, some people find controversial, but is this UFO whistleblower, he says that some of the people coming after him are involved in Monsanto. and there's this Monsanto-Bechtel connection from back in the day, and they were maybe involved in the UFO alien issue as well. So, and of course, this links back to the UFO question and how all of this was initially set up and institutionalized.
Well, and even there was a documentary, I don't remember which documentary or which person, but they were saying some of this is stored, some of these biologics and different things are stored at different institutions.
Yeah, well,
in the healthcare space, like in the, right? I'm trying to remember.
Well, what's interesting, I mean, you have little tidbits where you have to take some of the stuff with a grain of salt, think probabilistically. I'm not saying this is definitely true, but you have these Majestic 12 document leaks from 1984 to the late 90s. And basically it involves this secret committee, this like what Eisenhower was probably calling, the military-industrial complex, but an even more exclusive group initially led by Vannevar Bush under Truman and Eisenhower of elite military, scientific, and political personnel governing the UFO issue. One of these people on this committee of 12 is a guy named Detlev Bronk. And Detlev Bronk shows up so much in UFO lore. He's the guy supposedly doing alien autopsies when crashes are recovered at Aztec, maybe at Roswell. And Detlev Bronk is the president of the Rockefeller Foundation, and he is also president of Johns Hopkins. And Johns Hopkins clears, I think, like $8 billion a year for, medical research. Nobody knows, exactly where all of that line at. Like, if Doge were to audit that, you might come up with some interesting stuff. So, what is so dangerous about this dystopian landscape that has been created around us? We have become used to the routine. We have been stuck in a loop, and eventually, just like how the occasional UFO whistleblower will come forward, people who worked inside the healthcare industry will speak out and tell us what is really going on. This begs the question, if we are the frogs slowly boiling in this system, over 100 years of being quietly captured by it, then what kinds of treatments have been taken off the table? What ideas were too cheap, too natural, or too hard to patent? Were there remedies buried because they threatened the system, or promising avenues that were blocked from above? I realize that when I talk about this topic, we run the risk of inviting a lot of criticism. I'm not saying that there have not been charlatans and literal snake oil salesmen selling fake hope for profit. All I am saying is that just like in UFO world, where you have obvious fake footage, you have institutionalized official narratives, you have people lying and grifting. In the health world, there's snake oil, but there's also very likely a group of suppressed real breakthroughs. Fringe discoveries dismissed as quackery. And speaking of quackery, one of the strangest but most persistent ideas in this limbo of dismissed medical science is the realm of electromagnetic fields and frequencies. Targeted bursts of energy designed to kill microbes, stimulate healing, or restore the body's internal rhythms. It sounds bizarre, but some of the most intriguing and controversial figures of 20th century medicine were working along these invisible lines. Take Royal Raymond Rife, a forgotten genius to some and a pseudoscientific footnote to others. In the 1930s, Rife claimed to have invented a microscope so powerful it could observe live viruses. This was laughed off as impossible. Rife also believed that pathogens had a mortal oscillatory rate, a specific frequency that, if broadcast into the body, could destroy the invasive virus without harming the surrounding tissue, like an opera singer shattering a wine glass with her voice. He even built a machine he claimed worked on this principle. For a brief time in the mid-1930s, it seemed like he had discovered something special. A clinic in California was even reportedly treating cancer patients with this device. It sounded like a miracle cure. And then nothing. The AMA refused to validate the findings. His lab was raided, colleagues pressured, and the equipment confiscated. By the 1940s, medical science had forgotten this brief experiment, and Rife died poor and discredited. Rife was part of a whole wave of early 20th century inventors exploring similar ideas, from George Lakhovsky's multi-wave oscillators to Tesla coils, violet rays, and later radionic devices that claimed to diagnose illness by tuning in to the body's unique energetic signature. One of the quotes often associated with Nikola Tesla is, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." You can see echoes of his work in some of this mid-century innovation, and perhaps Hidden among the papers seized by the US government after his death were ideas that could have shaken the establishment health industry, ideas that might still be classified by the government. After all, his Bryant Park apartment was raided by the FBI. His files were seized and put in a vault, only to be reviewed by MIT professor and the uncle of our sitting president, John Trump. Trump reviewed the Tesla files to see if they could confer any tactical advantage to the United States, but he wasn't necessarily looking at the healing benefits of the inventor's work. To this day, many people with chronic and autoimmune diseases swear by these electromagnetic healing devices. In fact, many Lyme disease patients say that nothing helps them other than Royal Rife's machine, the Rife machine. Ross Douthat, an esteemed op-ed columnist at the New York Times, actually got Lyme disease and occasionally uses this Rife machine. Douthat is the opposite of conspiratorial. In fact, he's expressed a lot of skepticism around mainstream UFO narratives. Even I have a modern derivative of the Rife machine. It's called an amp coil. Every body has an electromagnetic frequency. That's not a conspiracy. And electromagnetic fields undoubtedly affect all sorts of things. This book, The Bioelectric, which outlines what is now basically established science, shows that the body's bioelectric field dictates morphology. Basically, electromagnetic charges control cell communication and even what limbs grow and where.
You know, if you put a frog embryo in a Faraday cage, it does not develop normally. And then if you can change the cell gradient of like a tadpole, where you've severed the arm of the tadpole, to the cell gradients of the head cells, and you can grow a chimeric two-headed tadpole. And so there's something around kind of the electromagnetic field that is orthogonal and maybe even upstream of DNA in terms of morphology.
Yeah, because they've done experiments too with plant growth around high powerful Wi-Fi routers, and that actually they don't grow right.
No,
it's like pretty. So it's kind of concerning. I think about the Wi-Fi in my house. I'm like, oh man, am I like cooking myself slowly or something?
Have you heard of a guy named Luc Montagnier by any chance?
No.
He discovered the HIV genome, and he's this French Nobel Prize winner. And at the end of his life, he was very anti-COVID vaccine, and he said that there was like nanotech put in it. I'm not saying that's true, but that's what he said. But he was also very interested in this idea of like aqueous nanostructures in the DNA that transmitted information via electromagnetism. And I wonder if we discover something in that vein